Yes, let's start from the top of the page. That way I won't have to give any background. Vatani came. We learned in a brisa. If she gets sick or he gets sick, or he goes to Chutz La'aretz, they don't count for the 10 years after which he divorces her. By the way, it's interesting. The reason why we're not makpid on that nowadays you don't have to divorce your wife even if you don't have kids after 10 years. The reason is because actually Mordechai says the reason is because the Gemara at the end of the third paragraph of Basra says that Bismanazeh really we shouldn't have any kids because of the Churban Beis Hamikdash. So we shouldn't have any kids, but then there won't be any Am Yisrael. But nevertheless, because of this concept of Zechel Churban, that's why we don't require somebody who has no kids to get divorced or to marry another wife. It's an interesting thing that Mordechai says. So it's not because of that Gemara that he says you don't have to divorce after 10 years or marry somebody else. Okay? So in any event, so we're not makpid now on this halacha of Bismanazeh.
So Churban overrides Puru.
Yeah. Churban overrides. The Gemara says there were a grudge people after the Churban refused to get married, refused to eat meat or drink wine, and there was one other thing they refused to. I forget what the other thing was. So the Gemara says, obviously it's not possible, but and we're not makpid on these things. But the Mordechai says that because there is such a concept, so therefore we don't make him get divorced. Okay, so goes Chutz La'aretz, Einim Olim, they don't count for 10. Doesn't count for the 10 years. Nisas Larishon, she's married to the first guy for 10 years. Below. This is a reason she's married to the first guy for 10 years, below Yoda, and doesn't give birth. Yesh lo ksuva, she's get to ksuva. L'shein, then she marries the second guy for 10 years and doesn't give birth. She still got a ksuva. Yesh lo ksuva. L'shlishi, she marries the third guy and doesn't give birth. Yesh lo ksuva, she's got a ksuva. L'reveil chamish, she marries the fourth or fifth guy. Ein lo ksuva, she really doesn't have a ksuva. Rabbi China bar Agol b'shem Rabbi Chizkiah said, China Agol named Rabbi Chizkiah said, L'shlishi atzmo ein lo ksuva. The third one himself, she already has no ksuva, meaning there's a machlokas here. After how many husbands does she establish a chazaka that she's barren? Is that the 3 husbands? And therefore, after having had 3 husbands and not having had any kids, for the 4th and 5th husband she gets no ksuva? Or is after 2 husbands, and then after 2 husbands not having any kids, she doesn't get a ksuva already from then on for whatever women she marries, however amount of men she marries. So it says the Gemara, Nisis Levi Chamishi Velo Yoda. What happens if she marries the 4th and 5th guy and she covers his birth? Maud Yavsu Kadmoya Le, can the first 3 come and say, hey, you were barren. Obviously you're barren. So we want our ksuvas back. Give us a refund. Because we paid you a ksuva when we divorced you because we thought maybe you're not barren. But you clearly are barren, so we want a refund, right? So it says, she could say, now I became barren. When I was married to you, I wasn't barren. It was your fault, not mine. Says the Gemara, what if you have a certain so at this point this woman, meaning herself, became barren. What if she marries the 4th, 5th guy and she has a kid? Finally, after 40 years, she has a kid, right? So what happens? Can she go back to the 4th guy and demand her ksuva? Can she say, see, I wasn't barren, so I'm a ksuva, right? So no. We say to her, better you should be quiet and not talk. Why? Because the 4th guy will say, I only divorced you because I thought you were barren. So therefore it's like a gerushin al tonight. So now that I see you weren't barren, I would want you back. And if I want you back, I could go out and spread the rumor that your get is null and void, and that your kid is therefore a mamzer. So therefore, better you should keep quiet than you should demand your money, because I can make all sorts of promises for you. Nivelis v'lo adam. Now, on a similar, but the similar topic, If a woman, every time she has relations with her husband, she sees neither blood. So niveles v'lo adam, she says she has relations and she sees blood. Niveles v'lo adam, she has relations, sees blood. Istani tani, those who learn shniyati boil, she can have relations the second time, but then she already established a pattern, and shlishis loti boil, she may not have relations the third time because she chazaka that she sees blood whenever she has relations. Istani tani, those who said shlishis boil, she can have relations the third time, revius loti boil, but not a fourth time. Why? Because the machlokas, how long it takes to establish a chazaka, a pattern. Is the pattern established 2 times or 3 times? Having boil them, they want to say mandamar shniyati boil shishistoti boil. The person who holds that a second time she can have relations, but not a third time, because she already established a pattern of seeing blood after relations. Kamandamar shlishis and ksuva. It's just like the opinion which holds that the third she doesn't get her ksuva already on the third marriage. But he who said that she doesn't establish pattern until the third time, and therefore the third time she can have relations. And if he is low T-boil, only the fourth time she can't have relations. That's like the opinion which holds the third, from the third husband, she does have a ksuva, and only then is the pattern established, and only the fourth one does not get a ksuva. Right, only for the fourth one she does get a ksuva. So, and it seems like those are related. Whether you establish chazaka 2 or 3 times is a global machlokas. Now, what about? Let's see if we can apply it further. She gave birth to male children, but you him, and they would get bris milas, and they would die. Right? That those learn sheni yamu. The second one gets a bris. Shlishni yamu. The third one doesn't get a bris milah because the pattern is established with twice. Tani, those who learned that shlishi yamu, that the third time you do get a bris milah because the pattern is not established until after 3 times. Reveal yamu. It's only after 3 kids have died that the fourth one she doesn't get a bris to. So here too they wanted to say. He who said that the second time you still have a bris, but then already pattern established in shlishi lo yomu, and for the third you shouldn't have a bris. Shlishi saying look, it's like opinion which holds that when she's married to 3 people in succession, already the third one doesn't have to give her ksuva to divorce her because she established a pattern of first 2. And he who said that the third time you give a bris still, so the fourth time you don't give a bris because they only established a pattern of 3 times, so that would be command amar. That would be like the opinion which holds that she still has a ksuva the third time because she's not considered to have established a pattern of barrenness until after 3 times.
So the circumstances are different. One is a life and death situation.
That's what my dad says exactly that. I know, says my feel command amar shlisha ksuva. Even the opinion which holds that the third time around she gets a ksuva and she hasn't yet established a pattern of barrenness holds that Modei Huacha Shelo Yomu Nesakano concedes that for bris milah, already after the second one, you don't do a bris milah because of the danger involved. And then now the one brings down Ma'aser, which is brought down also in Shabbos in the Bavli. Tani Omer Rabbi Nosson says Ma'aser Shalachti Kesorin Shel Kapukaya. Once went to the city of Kesorin in the district of Kapukaya. Vaisasham Isha Achos, a certain woman there, Vaisiletis Chorim, she would give birth to males, and they'll get a bris milah, they would die. She gave bris to the first kid and died. Vasheni May is the second kid that died. Shlishi May is the third one that died. The V's, the fourth one, Heavy also Lefanai, she brought him in front of me. Nistakalti boy, I looked at him for I didn't see blood for bris milah, meaning obviously he was jaundiced, right? He didn't have the right coloring, so therefore he knew that to wait. Amarti lohem, so I said to the people, leave him for a while. And they left him. Umalu, and then they gave bris milah after he had recovered. And he was found to survive. They called him Nosson by my name. Okay, because obviously it was Rabbi Nosson who saved this kid. Now, when getting back to the woman who we counted 10 years of barrenness, what if she had kids and they died? Mona Mishas Misa, we count from the time that her kids died. Because she could say, Rucha Chanchas Bonim Dayit, she could say a spirit suffocated the children of this woman, of herself, and I only became barren then. It wasn't barren beforehand. So actually, if she has no surviving kids, but she still, we count from the time that her last kid died, whether to see whether she's barren, because she might only have become barren then, because at that point she became so depressed or so sick over the being deprived of her children that at that point she became barren. Okay? Rabbi Eliezer b'Shem Rabbi Yosef Razim said, "Time of Dahan Tanya." Getting back to our Mishnah said that only a man is Mechuyim Puravu, not a woman. What's the logic of our Mishnah? Because it says, Puravu, be fruitful, multiply, and Milu starts and fill the land, Vikiv Shua and conquer it. Vikiv Shua Ksiv, actually. It says Vikiv Shua, he will conquer it. Midar Kolich Bosh, who is the one who actually goes out to, why is it written in singular if it's read as plural? Because whose derech is to go out to conquer? It's a man and not a woman. And therefore only a man is required, it conquers the world, and therefore only a man is mechuyev to actually go out and be involved in Puravu. Of course, nowadays that there are women involved in all sorts of areas. I don't know, maybe the halacha changes, yeah? But in any event, that's the way it was in the good old days when men were men, then women were women, but now who knows? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Avo, Rabbi Yitzhak bar Miriam B'Shem Rechina said, halacha Rabbi Yecham ben Broka, that both the man and the woman are mechuyev in Puravu. Rabbi Yitzhak bar Acham, Rabbi Yaakov bar Edi, Rabbi Yitzhak bar Kula B'Shem Rabbi Yunasiyah said, even if the halacha is not that way, in other words, even if a woman is not mechuyev in Puravu, in Tovasi Nasei, she says she wants to marry somebody else in order to potentially have kids, she has the right to claim that, because having kids is a very important advantage, of course, for many reasons, and therefore she has a right to try and enjoy that advantage, even if she's not mechuyeves in Puravu. Rabbi Eliezer said, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Again, he said that Allah is for Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. They're both mechuyev in Puravu. Alright, so Rabbi Zazar said, Im Chohisi. I was with you in front of Rabbi Chanina. Lo Isamis, that was not said. Rather, what was said was not that Lo Soriyah ben Brocha, but Im Hoysa Tavasi no say that if she was demanding to get married, at the end, we give her the right to do so. And it's not because of Puravu, but rather because of the advantages of having kids. Rabbi Eliezer Hadod Tninon. Now, the similar thing happened where one guy didn't remember properly, the other guy reminded him of the proper thing with unrelated topic. The Tanya Tamon, we learned over there, Shabbos Shechol Tisha B'Av Lios B'Socha, the week when Tisha B'Av occurs, when it's forbidden to take haircuts and to do laundry. Chamishi on Friday, Minei Kover Mutar Minei Kover Shabbos, Missal because of Kover Shabbos. Rabbi Zavta B'Shem, Rabbi Chanina said, Bikash Rabbi Lakor Tisha B'Av. And Rabbi wanted to uproot Tisha B'Av and do away with it altogether. So, says the Gemara, V'lo Nichola didn't allow him to do so. Rabbi Eliezer said to Rabbi Bar Zavda, I was there in front of you, with you in front of Rabbi Chanina. V'lo Yisamis, and there wasn't said it like this, that Rabbi wanted to uproot Tisha B'Av altogether. Rather, Bikesh Rabbi Lakor Tisha B'Av Shchalas B'Shabbos. When Tisha B'Av comes on Shabbos, that year Rabbi wanted to abolish Tisha B'Av altogether, as opposed to what we do, which is to make it on Sunday past Shabbos. But no, the rabbis didn't permit him to do so. Amar, Rabbi's logic was, once it's pushed off, let it be pushed off altogether, right? Amulos, they said to him, no, Yidach Elamachar, it should be pushed off till tomorrow. So actually, Rabbi didn't want to uproot every Tisha B'Av, just Tisha B'Av comes on Shabbos. So then Rabbi Lezer said about Rabbi Bar Zavta said named Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Bar Zavta, who had made the same name Rabbi Chanina inaccurately, said about Rabbi Lezer's reminding of the accurate nature of the statement. The Korah Aleim, he said about himself and Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Bar Zavta said about himself and Rabbi Lezer, Tovi Mashnami two people are better than one, meaning I did not remember properly on my own, but because you participated in remembering with me and we put our brains together, we remembered actually what Rabbi said properly. So therefore, Shuklayach for correcting me. That's basically what he said. Okay, Ajlach Abon Yivimto, new parak. Amar L'Kohen Gadol. You have an Amona marrying Kohen Gadol, or the divorcee women underwent chalutza marrying a regular Kohen. She brings into the marriage Avdi Milog and Avdi Tzon Barzel. Now, Avdi Milog and Avdi Tzon Barzel are important concepts. Does anybody remember what the difference between Milog and Tzon Barzel is?
That's what she brought into the marriage brought her own.
So is Tzon Barzel.
It is?
Yeah. What's the halachic difference? What's the halachic difference? Does anybody want a window open? Or everybody's fine? Yeah, what's the halachic difference between?
I remember that there was one is
I'll just turn this on low. Yeah.
Tzon Barzel is it's the iron. It's not the payros. It's the actual principle. It's not the interest.
Which is?
Tzon Barzel. It's not the interest. But
They're both objects. They're both objects. Right? Tzon Barzel Milog are not money. She doesn't bring in money. She brings in property. So Milog is where she brings in the property. What happens at the end of the marriage?
Isn't it called Nifsei Milog?
Yeah. Nifsei Milog. Yeah, but these are avodim who are brought in the status of Nifsei Milog. So what happens with the property she brings in as Nifsei Milog?
She goes out with the same thing that she came in with.
Right. She takes in whatever she brought. Takes out whatever she brought in. What happens to Tzon Barzel?
Whatever it's worth. Yeah.
Whatever it's worth, right? He undertakes when she brings the stuff into the marriage, whatever it's worth that he'll get and she'll get at the end, even if it depreciates or appreciates. So the advantage of Nifsei Milog is that if it appreciates, it's still hers. The disadvantage of Nifsei Milog is that if it depreciates, it's still hers. The advantage of Tzon Barzel is that the value is guaranteed. The disadvantage is that the value is static. Okay? So, is that what you were thinking before?
No.
Okay, but you both remember that, right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So, what?
It took a while.
All right. It just goes to show you retain something. She brings in avodim with the status of milog, meaning that at the end of the marriage she'll get back the same slaves, or avdi tzon barzel, or avodim of tzon barzel, which means she's guaranteed their value at the end of the marriage. Avdi milog lo yochlu b'truma. The slaves that try milog, they shouldn't eat truma, even though here it's forbidden marriage, right? Obviously, so avdi milog lo yochlu b'truma because they belong to her, and she doesn't have the right to eat truma, right? So therefore, they can't eat truma. V'avdi tzon barzel, the avdi tzon barzel, however, yochlu b'truma, they can eat truma. Why is that? Even though it's forbidden marriage, because who do they belong to now? They belong to him, because he has to give back not them, but their value. So therefore they belong to him, and therefore they can eat truma, even though she may not. Right? Ve'eloin avdi milog. These are the slaves of milog. In mesu, if they die, mesu law. She suffers the loss, right? Because they're hers. You will see her if they appreciate. You'll see her loss. She gets the gain. Period. Afa pishu chayim is even though he has to pay them, because that's part of his undertaking. Lo yochel b'truma, they may not eat truma. Ve'elein avdi tzon barzel, what's tzon barzel? Mesu lo, if they die in his cheshbon. He will see if they go up in value, he'll see lo, they go up in his cheshbon as well. Since he's liable to replace them, in other words, therefore, they're essentially his. Areu yochel b'truma, they may eat b'truma as his slaves. Okay? It says, I would know the regular Kohen who marries a woman who's permitted to him, the kana lo avodim, and he acquires for himself avodim, or it's either or. How you know the Kohen marries a woman or acquires avodim? She'ochel b'truma, that his wife or slaves eat truma. Talmud, because it says Kohen ki'iknek nefesh ki'iknek kasvo. The Kohen acquires something, a soul, to be the purchase of his money. So that refers either to his wife or his slaves, and they get to eat truma. Okay, the Kohen's wife or his slaves, even though obviously they're not Kohanim. Minayin leishto shekonsa avodim. Now, how do you know that if a slave, if the wife buys slaves, or the master's own slaves by themselves slaves, how we know how we know that they eat truma? So how we know that his wife's slaves, but his own slaves, how we know that they have the right to eat truma? So says the Gemara, Talmud Lomar, because the says the kohen ki ikan nefesh kinyan kaspo. If a kohen buys a soul or a kinyan kaspo, the acquisition of his money. So without redashin, af kinyano shekana kinyan, even his purchase, that which belongs to him, which acquired something, ochel. So the indirect thing, the thing which is not directly his, eats as well. So here we see that if his avodim, acquired avodim, they too eat truma. The avodim bought by the avodim, which is a big chiddush. You know, with the slaves buy slaves, and the slave level 1 can eat truma, so too the slave level 2 can eat truma as well. Good question. Says tomorrow we're going to talk about. Yeah, it would take us. Well, I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. Rabbi Yaakov Baracha and Rabbi Hila, B'Shem Rabbi Hila said, "Heim yochlu, v'heim yachilu." They eat and they allow to. It says that in Pasuk, which we brought at the beginning of the Gemara, that give kohen kikin nefesh kinyan kaspo. The kohen acquires something to his soul. So it says there, he eats truma, right? So it says there in the pasuk, "Heim yochlu," they will eat. So we dash that pasuk, "V'heim yachilu," they will cause others to eat. I'm not sure why we dash that way. It's because the extra heim, where the heim is superfluous or some other reason. But we say anybody can eat, can cause others to eat. But this is why average kana avodim, that if a slave buys slaves, Amanashia Rabbi Shusba, in order that his masters to have some jurisdiction over them, he must be. So that's what our Mishnah is talking about. That these avodim have the right. The Bryce is talking about that these avodim of the avodim have the right to eat truma. Now this is an interesting thing. What happens here, obviously, even though we have principle mashkona evet kana rabba, whatever a slave buys, his rebbe buys. Obviously, our Gemara is telling us that it's not directly the masters. It's the masters via the evet. Because otherwise, of course, what's the chiddush here? You know, why do you need to say that the avodim buy avodim, that the avodim of the avodim eat truma? Obviously, if they belong to the master, so they eat truma, right? So you have to see, that the linkage to the master is indirect. I mean, the linkage to the, the linkage to the master is indirect, right? Okay, otherwise, the Gemara doesn't make sense. There's no chiddush in what the Gemara is saying. But the linkage is indirect, and nevertheless, it's on the general jurisdiction of the owner of the house, who is a kohen, so therefore the avodim and avodim of the avodim eat truma as well. Okay, as opposed to the evet shekana avodim amnas should be sheloye or she'ein rabba shusbohen. If an evet buys avodim without giving his master any benefit in them, any authority over them, kinyanohem, they're the kinyan of the sharecropper, or whoever he is, the second in command guy, the evet, and therefore they can't eat truma. Am I making myself clear?
Yeah, I'm still not clear how an evet can have.
Oh, so he got money from somewhere else. Somebody gave him money as a gift. And they gave him his money on Menashe and the Rabba Rishusba with the intent that his master should not have any jurisdiction over him. It's not automatic.
So he can have property.
Right.
Because another evet that's left current.
Right.
So he can actually own property.
Right. That's what comes in. The what?
If his master gets no benefit out of his slave, then the second slave goes on.
No, if the first man, no, it depends. If the come in, if the first, we don't buy usually. If the first slave bought the slaves and expressly stated his intent that they should not be subject to the jurisdiction of the master, then the second level slaves can't eat truma, but the first level slaves can still eat truma, right? The slave owner can eat, so the slaves he owns cannot eat.
Can the first slave tell the second slave to do the work for him instead of...
I think so. Sounds like it. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yaakov Bar Achon, Rabbi Hillel Shem Eliezer said, "Eved shkona avodim anashein l'shloye l'rab rishus b'hem." If an Eved buys avodim, in other words, first level slave by second level slaves, with the intent that the master has no jurisdiction over them, umeis, and then the first level slave dies, right? Anybody who gets them, acquires them, because they're hefker, because their master died, right? What? They're not free. No. Who freed them? Okay, so they're free.
The first level slave doesn't free.
No.
What if the master died?
No. It goes to the heir. It doesn't become hefker. Says the Gemara, V'achal lav kinyan kinyanahu. Here's not kinyan kinyano. Well, this is actually going back to the Mishnah. The question of the Mishnah, as the Pnei Moshe explains it, is why can't the Avnei Milok eat truma? They're kinyan kinyano, right? They're acquired by the wife, who's acquired by the husband in the old days when things like this still were acceptable. So therefore, in that case, the avodim of the wife, even though they're her avodim, the avnei milog, it should be allowed to eat truma, right? That stands to reason. So why not? So two reasons. Says Rabbi Hillel said, "Heim yochlu v'heim yachilu." No, because it says who eats. Where that should pasuk that extra heim. Whoever can eat is the one who causes others to eat. Can cause others to eat. Can the here in our mission talk about a mother married to Kohen Gadol, right? So she's no longer, she's a widow and she's married to Kohen Gadol, or a divorcee married to Rei Kohen. So she herself is not allowed to eat truma. How could she cause avodim under jurisdiction to eat truma? That's one interpretation. Another interpretation, Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Knas. Theoretically, really, she could allow her avodim to eat truma. Why doesn't she? Because we find her in order to get her out of the marriage as soon as possible. Non-African, what's an African? What's the difference between the two positions? Evet Arel Shekona Avodim. An uncircumcised slave who acquired other slaves. If we're going to say that the reason why the the wife slaves cannot eat truma is because of a knas, we find them because of the forbidden marriage. Here, the ain't kan knas. Who are we finding here? Why it should be a problem? So therefore, they should be allowed to eat truma. Alright, in Tamar, we're going to say only somebody who sued himself to eat can allow others to eat. So the Zeh, in this case, since the first level slave, he can't eat because he's an Arel, an uncircumcised person may not eat truma. So therefore, he can't allow others to eat as well. Okay? Getting back to the other case of Mishnah, Rabbi Yaakov Baracha Amar, he said, "V'avdei tzom plaritol pligin." We have a machlokus about avdei tzom baratel. What's machlokus? Rabbi Yochanan Amar machron. If the husband sells them, ain't a machron, they're not sold. Which of course is difficult. Why not? Because they seem to belong to them, right? It's avdei tzom baratel. Let's give back their value, not they themselves. They can't sell. Amar Rabbi Eliezer said, "I don't understand how you can say this." The whole reason why these Avdei Tzom Barzel are eating truma is because of their being affiliated with the Baal, with the owner who is a Kohen, right? So that's all based on their affiliation with him. You're going to say he can't sell them? How can you say that those two svaras can't coexist? If they can eat truma because they're owned by the owner of by their owner, so certainly their owner should have the right to sell them as well. Right? Is that clear? If they can eat truma because they're owned by this owner who's a Kohen, so why can't this owner who's a Kohen sell them? if Avdei Milo can eat, Avdei Tzom Barzel can eat truma, because the husband owns them, right? Indirectly, but he owns them through his wife. So why can't he sell them? So why did he truma? Why do you have both ways?
It's like the second generation.
Why?
Assuming that the wife is like the first generation.
Yeah, but the wife here gave him authorization. The Tzom Barzel belongs to the Tzom Barzel. She wants the husband to be in charge of it, right? So it's not like Eved who bought Sayam Nash Ein Lo Rabba Shusbo, a slave who bought Sayam to which so his master should have any authority over it. She wants the husband to have authority, otherwise she's not going to get back her investments, right? So why can't she sell? That's the question. So Omar lay. So Rabbi Yochanan said, "I'll tell you. Okay, Avdei Milog, Avadi which are Avdei Milog, not Avdei Tzom Barzel. Harei Ochli and Truma Mikochel. Theoretically, the mice we don't possibly we say they can't eat Truma because of Knas. That's what Rabbi Yochanan said before. But theoretically, they could eat Truma because of their master or their mistress's husband, right? The Kohen, right? So says the Gemara. Zos Omeres, this teaches us Mechoran Eina Mechurin, that if he sells them, they're not sold. Why does it tell us that again? I read that wrong. Sorry. You're going to sell. No. I read it right the first time. Rabbi Yochanan says, look, you agree with me by Avdei Tzom Milog. Avdei Milog. The only reason they don't need Trumas is because we find them. That's what Rabbi Yochanan said in the bottom. The only reason we say that Avdei Milog can't eat Trumas is because we find them hoping that they'll get divorced. We find the Amar of the Kohen Gadol, right? The Amar or the Kohen Gadol that their Havodim can't eat Truma in order that they should expedite divorce proceedings. So if that's the case, theoretically they could eat Truma. And we know Avdei Milog cannot be sold, because who do they belong to? The woman. It's not like Avdei Tzom Barzel for sure. Avdei Tzom Barzel, they might belong to the man. But Avdei Milog you can't sell. So we see, says Rabbi Yochanan, that there's a distinction between the right to sell and the right to eat Truma. So if it says, Rabbi Yochanan, that Avdei Tzom Barzel also, even though they eat Truma as a result of the husband, but the husband does not have the right to sell them. The two separate realms in halacha, and they're not distinct from each other. Okay? That's what Rabbi Yochanan says. The letter says, no! Hagat, B'shechonas nulach. Let me give it back to you from your own statement. He says, Avdei Milog, I lost my place. Bedinu shelo yachal Truma. Really, Avdei Milog, they shouldn't eat Truma at all. Because who do they belong to, the Avdei Milog? The wife, right? Ve'ein amar sheyochal. The Rabbanan said they can eat. It's an interesting thing. I assume it's because of Hefker based in Hefker. In other words, by regular Avdei Milog, not where it's on one of the Kohen Gadol. Regular Avdei Milog, really, they shouldn't be allowed to eat Truma. Because they belong to the woman, and she's not a Kohenes. So why can't she eat Truma? Why can't they eat Truma? Because the Rabbanan said they should be allowed to eat Truma. So it's Hey Mamru, right? They said. So they're Hefker based Hefker, they gave the right to do so, right? So, Behein Amru, Mechorin Ein Mechurin. And they at the same time said, if you try to sell them, they're not sold. The husband tries to sell them, it's not sold. He only has the right to feed them. Truma doesn't have the right to sell them, right? But over here, in the case where it's about Nifsei Tzom Barzel, here, Rabbanan didn't need to make any distinctions of that sort, and they didn't. And therefore, by Nifsei Tzom Barzel, they say, there certainly is There certainly is. They're certainly affiliated with the husband, and therefore, since they're affiliated with the husband, so he can sell them as well. Okay. So again, by Nichsei Milog, says Rabbi Lezer, I learned that really the Avadim or Avdim Milog should not eat truma. They shouldn't have the right to eat truma. The reason they have the right to eat truma is because of the hefker beis nefker. So hefker beis nefker, they only took a part way, not all the way. They didn't give them the right to sell. But by Nichsei Tzom Barzel, inherently, the right to eat the truma is not because the Beis Din allowed it, but rather because of one of the psukim before, because they already belonged to him, right? So since they already belong to him, so therefore they have the right to eat truma. But since they already belong to him, therefore they may also be sold by him at his discretion. Okay? So it says the Gemara, Rabbi Yaakov Barach B'Sher Rabbi said, Masisim side, then we have Brisa like one of these. Masisim side, then Masisa Brisa like the other one. Masisim side, Rabbi Lezer is a Brisa which, like Rabbi Lezer says, Nichsei Tzom Barzel he can sell, as opposed to Nichsei Milog which he cannot. What does that say? That says Avdei Milog Yotzi Mishem B'Ayin L'Isha. The Avadim which are Avdei Milog, if the woman knocks out their tooth or eye, so then they go free. Because if a woman knocks out, if any of a slave's tooth or eye knocked out, so then they go out of slavery. So it says the Gemara, Avdei Milog Yotzi Mishem B'Ayin L'Isha. Who's the one who has to make them lose a tooth or an eye in order for them to go free? The wife, right? Avalol ish, but not for the man. Why? Because who owns them? He owns them. But the Avadim which are Tzom Barzel, on the contrary, Yoitzi M'Shei Vayin Lish, they go out with the tooth in an eye for the father. For the husband. Avalol ish, but not for the woman, because Tzom Barzel already belongs to him. So that's a Rabbi Lezer who says that the Tzom Barzel truly belongs to him. So Ma'avli Rabbi Yochanan, what did Rabbi Yochanan do with this brisa? So it says a very interesting thing. He says, the truth is, they don't really belong to the husband, right? But kalu b'shichur, and fascinating concept. He says it's a leniency by shichur, by freeing, that we allow freedom under circumstances which wouldn't normally allow a sale. Ki'adah, like the following case. I'll bring you a proof. The Tanya we learned, ha'oisa avda apotike. If somebody makes this evident to apotike, and apotike is designated collateral, right? He makes it, says to my slave, she designated collateral on a loan that I owe. Machro, and then the guy turns around and sells the slave, and a machro. It's not a valid sale. Why it's not a valid sale? Because he's depriving the other person of his lien, right? Machro and a machro. It's not a valid sale. But shichur, or if you redeem the slave is free. Shichur. So what do we see? We see that somebody else's lien can prevent me from selling my slave, but it can't prevent me from releasing my slave, right? Is that clear?
It can't prevent you from selling, but it can allow you to free.
None of this is allowed. I made the ever collateral, but I can still free the slave. But I can't sell the slave, right? Because it's designated. So too here says Rabbi Yochanan, the husband cannot sell the Tzom Barzel. What he can do is he can redeem them, free them, release them. Why is that? Because there are always more rights to release than to sell. I think because releasing is a holy thing, it makes the Evet a full Yisrael, so therefore more stringent. So therefore what Rabbi Yochanan says is that you can't sell Nichsei Tzom Barzel Avodim. You may not. Even though you can release them. Right? Why is that? Because the woman's affinity to the Tzom Barzel bars you from selling the Avdi Tzom Barzel. But since release is such a powerful value in Am Yisrael, so therefore that release overwhelms whatever rights she has, which impedes upon him for selling. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan survives this proof intact with his own position. His own position is that the husband may not even sell Avdei Tzom Barzel. I can release Avdei Tzom Barzel. That's why if the Shein V'ayin is knocked out by him, the Avdei Tzom Barzel go free. True, you can release them, but you can't sell them. It's easier to get released than to get sold. Okay? Says the Gemara, Masisa Messiah Rabbi Yochanan. There's a price proof for Rabbi Yochanan as well. says Echad Avdi Milog ve'Echad Avdi Tzom Barzel, both Avdi Milog and Avdi Tzom Barzel, Einon Biyom Yomayim. We don't leave them around to see whether they're going to linger for a day or two. Nor they go out by a tooth or an eye. In other words, neither the man or woman has the full ownership. Whenever there's a full owner, so if you smite the Evan and he lingers for a day or two, you're off the hook. Only if he dies on the spot are you chayiv misa. And also, do we say also that if you have if you have a case where it's jointly owned by them, so then neither one, if they knock out a tooth, is going to make the kid, the slave go free. So therefore, we say here that we see clearly that there is not, the ownership is fuzzy, right? Because it says the it doesn't matter who knocks out the eye. So that's what Rabbi Yochanan says. Nobody has complete rights to sell. Now, going back to the machlokas, Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yochanan, why, whether you can sell nichsei tzom barzel evan or not? What's the machlokas? B'shemachon olam is it talking about whether you can sell them for all eternity, or b'shemachon sure you can sell them temporarily? It says more in Tamar. If you're going to say b'shemachon olam, that the machlokas is where they're sold forever, and however, take out the velo. However, machlon shor divrei kol mechuyev, you sell them temporarily, it's okay. Okay, that's one side of the coin. The other aspect is ain't Tamar shemachon l'shah, that the machlokas is when they're sold private, temporarily. Ava, however, take out the word lo again. Machlokas, they're sold forever. Divrei kol einam mechur. His field designated collateral. Leisha for woman to be ksuvos to pay for ksuva in case of default on cash, or to a creditor. Al chovo on his debt in case of default on cash. Machra, if you sell it, areza mechura. It's a valid sale. If you sell it designated collateral, the sale is a valid sale. You're a Russia. You're going to burn in hell for it. Shouldn't have sold the land which is designated collateral, but the sale is a valid sale, right? Halokeach yichush latzmo. So what about the buyer? Caveat emptor. The buyer was a sucker. He should have bought it because there are prior liens on it, right? But the sale is a valid sale. Hashem no. Leisha be ksuvas. If you sell a land which is designated collateral to a woman for ksuva, ain't a mechura. It's not a valid sale. Period. So olas al das. Now it's interesting. Reason why not? It's not possible to conceive that women should be required to go to court in order to get back land which is sold out from under their noses, even though it was designated collateral. So Tanakam holds, everybody here, before I go say the more inside, let me say it outside. Everybody here holds it's not a permanent sale, right? Because the lien holder gets it back. Because his lien precedes the sale. But Agami holds you can't sell temporarily, because we don't want to be matriach. We want to only cause the woman the difficulty of going to Beis Din. So we don't even allow a temporary sale to go through. Not even until such time as it becomes necessary to get the land back out of the buyer. Okay, so that's what it says. Amr, they said, Asid Rabbi Lezer Krabanan. Rabbi Lezer holds you can sell nichsei tzom barzel. It's like Rabbanan holds you can sell the designated collateral, right? And the Rabbi Yochanan says you can't sell Avdei Tzom Barzel. It's Rabbi Gamliel holds you can't sell designated collateral. And since it's a parallel, obviously the machlok is only on a temporary sale. But the sell forever, everybody agree that that's not a valid sale altogether. Okay? Now, period. New issue. Vlad Bemis Belog, what if a behemoth which is Bemis Belog gives birth? Labal. Still goes to the husband. Why is that? Because appreciation goes to the husband, right? So a Vlad is appreciation. That goes to the husband, right? By Milog, not by Tzom. No, sorry, it's the opposite. By Milog, appreciation goes to her. It's not appreciation because it's not considered to be appreciation, obviously. Because by some Barzel, appreciation goes to husband, her advance remains the same. But my Milog, appreciation goes to her, depreciation goes to her, the fruit goes to the husband. The Gemara says we allow him to get the fruit of the milog in order that if she falls in captivity, he should redeem her. So where it says, he gets the fruit, so he should redeem her if falls in captivity. So therefore, in this case, the vlad of the behema is considered to be a fruit, and therefore the vlad goes to whom? If it's a fruit, it's a byproduct, not appreciation, depreciation. It goes to the husband, right? Vlad milo goes to the vlad nilsi milo, vlad ben so. But Vlad Shvachos Milog, if she has a Shivchas Milog, a maidservant, and it gives birth, so then that goes Leisha, that's not considered to be a fruit. It's not considered to be a byproduct, it's considered to be appreciation. And the Pnei Moshe explains based on the Bavli that by an animal, the animal is considered to be a fruit because even if the animal dies, you still have the animal's hide. In other words, if the mother dies, you still have its hide. The woman still has its hide. So therefore anything else is a fruit. Because she always retains something in the animal itself. So therefore anything else the animal has is considered to be a fruit. However, by a shvach, if the shivcha dies, you can't skin her and take her hide, right? So therefore what is the continuity of a shivcha is her child. Meaning that the child replaces the mother if the mother is to die. So therefore, that becomes part and parcel of the actual principle, so to speak. You see what I'm saying?
It's a natural consequence.
Right. So even though we're after the death of the mother, there would still be something left to the isha. So then, all the children, all the progeny belongs to the husband as peros. But where after the death of the mother, there'd be nothing left to the isha. So in order for the principle to maintain itself, you have to say that the children, the progeny, next generation also belong to the mother, to the isha, to the wife, and that's true about the vlad of the shivcha. Chanani ben Achia Yeshua Omer. He said, now here change the words. Shvi vlad shivchas milo ke vlad behemas milo. No difference. Even the son of the child of the maidservant is like the child of the animal, and it goes to the husband. Rabbi Lezer Amar Chevraya, Lezer the Chevraya, Havon Yodin Shenodu Rabbi Yochanan Kechanani ben Achi Yoshua. Rabbi Yochanan ben Achi Yoshua, that all progeny, both of animals and children and of human beings, go to the husband. Rav Shmuel had a machlokas about this. Rav says Krabona, that there's a difference between the progeny of an animal and the progeny of the maidservant. Shmuel Kechanani ben Achi Yoshua, they're both the same. Shmuel says they're both the same as the Rav. You're saying that the progeny of the shivcha goes to the woman, right? So if that's the case, interesting question. He says, if that's the case, a bechor only gets double in property which was around at the time of the death of the father, not an appreciation which comes after the death of the father. So according to you, if you regard the child of a maidservant as appreciation of the maidservant, so a bechor who has a shivcha, the father has a shivcha, and then the father dies, and the shivcha gives birth after the father's death, so that's appreciation, and then the bechor should not get double in that appreciation. And Shmuel somehow finds that impossible to conceive of. He says it must be that he gets double of the children of the shivcha. I don't know why Shmuel finds that so difficult. That's what Shmuel says. So it says the Gemara, Hagatz Mecha. This is, I think, Shmuel is Rav is answering. Yeah, Rav answers. He says, no, it's not true. He says, imagine this: Shichnisa k'tanim v'godlu. If they're small maidservants, they're the avodim are born when they're young, and they grow up, they become adults. Harein shalisha, right? They have to belong to the woman. That appreciation belongs to the woman. And you can see to me that even though they're older, the same thing after a father dies and leaves his kids the avodim, and they grow older and they appreciate over that time. So of course the b'chor gets pishnayim, right? B'chor not to pishnayim, right? So here too. We learn and we learn a Bryce, in fact, that if she brings in young maidservants or young slave, when she takes them out, she gets it back, even when they grow up and they're worth much, much more. So he says the same thing is true about the vlados of the shivcha. The vlados of the shivcha as well, they are considered to be a direct continuation of the shivcha, not shvach, but rather part of the principle. And therefore, after the father dies, the vlados of the shivcha also are divided up with double going to the b'chor. So he says, Shmuel, you misunderstood me. You're thinking that you think that I look at it as fringe appreciation, appreciation separate from the body, and therefore the b'chor will not get double. No, I look at it just like an eved which grew up from being younger, and appreciation is inherent, and that the b'chor does get pishnayim. So too, the next generation of children of this maidservant, of this eved, are considered to be in a continuation, and therefore there's pishnayim in them, double in them for the b'chor as well. Okay, now going back to Nichsei Tzom Barzo. Ichnisa lo shnei kelim. This is a cool case. She brought in 2 kelim. So one of them is worth the value of her entire ksuva, meaning that they appreciate in price. She brought in 2 Waterford crystals, and they're each worth $1,000, right? And now, when she gets divorced, they're both worth $2,000. So she only gets 1, right? Because the 1 will carry her entire burden now, because she brought in 2 which are worth $1,000 apiece. Now each one is worth $2,000, so now she only gets 1 back. So that's clear, because it's on barzo, right? So she gets back the value, right? What if now it's 1.5? Right? It's 1.5 crystals are worth her original ksuva, right? So again, her original ksuva was, let's say, her original was 1,500, and now, you get the idea, right? 1.5. So what happens when you break the second crystal in half? It doesn't make any sense, right? So what do you do? So Rav Huna Rav Nachman had a machlokas. Chad Rav Huna said to me So one said he pays for the other half of the second one, and he takes the other thing. But the other one says he no said it's Meir Sheni. No, she pays him for the second half. No, Lawson gets the second crystal. And that makes sense. And Rabbi Abba kind of explains and it goes even further. Amar Kram Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Abba kind of Amar Kum Rabbi Ami. And Rabbi Abba said, "Afilo Yafa Echad." Take out the next word of Mechza. Peculiar Fine takes out. Afilo Yafa Echad B'Ksuvasa. Even if one, going back to the first case, you already said, even if one of the 2 crystals now is worth the entire value of both at the beginning of the marriage, he knows said it's Meir Sheni V'Not Loso. She can pay for the second one and demand it back, even though she has to pay for it. It would be absurd that he gets, after he divorces her, to keep her crystal and use her crystal. So if it's true, she could get compensated for she only gets for free the one which completes the entire sum of money which she's owed. But she has the right to pay for the other one and demand it back, because what kind of a chutzpah is it that he's going to divorce her and keep her crystal? A tremendous chutzpah, right? Rabbi Yaakov the Mishnah tells us this. Ichnisa some bedomim. This Brisa tells us. Brisa says Ichnisa bedomim, not losa bedomim. If she brought it in for money, she takes it out for money, meaning that it's obvious that we're talking about a case where there's a discrepancy and she has the right to for whatever is estimated. Even now, if it's worth much more, she has the right to pay for it and take it out with her. Mao milog. Take out the word avde. You can read avde, but it's not necessary. He's asking, what does the word milog mean? What's the derivation? So he said, kamada amar molik molik, like you say, molik molik. Molik molik means to take the hair off a chicken's head. To soak it until the feathers come off. So here too, even though you soak it and you take off the feathers, whatever's left at the end, she gets. See what it means, milog? Even if you skin the chicken, not skin, but you de-feather, whatever it's called, the chicken, so whatever's left, she gets in the end. Talmud we learned over there. Interesting case. So you can make tzom barzel milog with anybody. You can make it and build it into a contract. So you accept sheep from a goy, right? And you're raising the sheep, and they're tzom barzel, meaning you're going to give the goy back their value. So nevertheless, havlados, the sheep and their children are pturim, are exempt from bechor, because the goy has rights on these sheep. So therefore, their firstborn are not holy. Vladas, however, the fourth generation is chayiv, meaning if these sheep have bechoros, they're potter. If their children have bechoros, they're potter. If their children's children have bechoros, then you're chayiv already. Well, they're chayiv in bechora. What's the difference? Rabbi Yirmiyah has Tamanatamer have Vladas Larishon. Here you say that the Vladas belong to the goy, and therefore you're exempt from bechora. But here you say that the husband has the rights to the sheep, right? Because by Dichsei Tzom Barzel, Shkor the husband, you say he gets the rights to sheep. So what's the difference? So says Marbios here, it said Tamai Deshi Korel Arishon Avlodas Larishon. There, but since the goy gave you the animals, and if he doesn't get back his investment, he's going to come and take your animals back. So therefore, the halacha is that it's called in Yad Akum B'Emtza. He still has a right to them. So he still has a right to them, so that's why they're parted from Bechorah. Even though he doesn't physically own them anymore. But since he has rights up to the third generation that he can come and claim them if he doesn't get back his investment, so that's why they're parted from Bechorah. But here, but here, the woman doesn't get back the sheep in any shape or form, right? She does not concern with getting the sheep back. She doesn't want the sheep back. She wants money, right? So therefore, havlodas l'sheni here. There's no concept of yad isha b'emtza, right? Maybe she'll have to sue for the sheep, but she'd rather not get the sheep, right? So therefore, he has the right to sell them in the meantime. So by the case of the goy, no, it's a little bit late. I'm sorry. By the case of the goy, so therefore, as long as the goy has some lien on it, so it exempts from bechorah. But of course, the Jew could sell those sheep if he wanted to, and therefore they're his. It's just that the guy's hand over them is a prevents them from being kosher b'chora. By a woman, there's no such concept of yad isha. Yes, it's true she has a lien over them, but the Lamaisa, she has no desire for them. She wants to get the money when she gets divorced, and therefore he has the right to sell them, and there's no issue of b'chora involved. Okay, stop here.
If it's landmark property,